Will Smith was in Student of the Year too.
Why do you not know this, Oishika? What kind of Indian are you?
That was just such collective tiredness in all of us.
Why did you not tell me this before?
Hello, everyone. I'm Oishika Chaudhary,
I'm Sanya Irfan.
and we are Yaars truly.
You know it, so sing it. Now throw your hands up and say.
This is such a great song to start off the podcast with because did you know it was originally sung by Pakistani singer Nazia Hassan? It was such a groundbreaking, record-breaking song.
Wait, really? And then they used it in Student of the Year?
Yeah, that was the best place to use it. Like, can you imagine the Student of the Year college life? Like wearing shimmering, glamorous clothes on a dance floor lit up like it was from an award show.
And Farha Khan comes to judge you.
And then you're doing a Bollywood number with Will Smith.
Wait, why'd you... Will Smith, is there something I'm missing?
Oh, no, sorry. That was Student of the Year too.
Wait, Will Smith was in Student of the Year too?
Why do you not know this, Oishika? What kind of Indian are you?
How the hell do I not know this? Poor Will Smith.
But honestly, Bollywood and Karan Johar in particular have set up such weird expectations of school and college. Matlab, ek to the whole school cares for some reason about you and your relationships. You know, like from the whole college trying to make Rahul and Anjali and Kuch Kuch Hota Hai friends again with, he's your best friend, yeah. To everyone running around Shania in Student of the Year's Gulabi Aankhein.
Oh my God, Sanya, I don't know if I told you this, but Varun Dhawan and Siddharth Malhotra came to my school when I was in the 8th grade to promote their film, Student of the Year. And I remember Alia Bhatt could not come because she had food poisoning that day.
Why did you not tell me this before? Wait, did they dance to Disco Divane?
Actually, I never could go see them because they only allowed students from 9th grade onwards to go to the event. But I did see it on the newspaper the next day, and the picture was when they were in the middle of a dance. So I guess they did.
That's a little sad for you. But it's funny because our school was on the opposite end of the spectrum. So a lot of the speakers that we would get were people who claimed to be religious scholars.
That makes it sound like your schooling was quite religious. Was it pretty religious? Did you have
Yeah, my school in particular was a bit of an outlier, but was super religious, or at least they claimed to be. Like, truthfully, if they wanted to justify any of their bigoted policies, they'd say, "Oh, Islam says so." But Islamia is mandatory in Pakistan, but again, I could go on about like the way Islamiyat and Islam is taught to us versus what Islam actually is.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is because that's very interesting to me. I don't recall having a religious aspect to my education in India at all. Some things are different now. I know the current government has been trying to make a lot of changes to the curriculum recently, but I don't think there's still any religious aspect to our education at all.
Oh, what kind of changes?
So I'm not totally sure, but I do know that the changes that are being made are made to the history syllabus for kids.
Oh, but did you ever have mandatory history courses that everyone had to take regardless of the school they went to? Like we had to take Pakistan studies, which is mandatory, Pakistan geography and history.
Yeah, so basically in India, we have 4 different authorities or boards, as we call them there, and they each have their own syllabi. I don't know if we had one mandatory subject for all of India, but I do know that we all studied the Indian independence struggle at different levels, like the revolt of 1857, the Salt March, which was a march done in protest to the high taxes imposed on salt by the British. This was all part of Indian history for us.
That is so interesting because we studied all of that, but it was part of Pakistan studies or Pakistan for us. It's such a salient reminder of these centuries of shared history we have.
Yeah, I actually remember the revolt of 1857 so briefly from my history chapters because it had something to do with cartridges of guns that the British introduced, and Indian soldiers had to use it. And the thing was that the soldiers had to tear open the cartridges of the guns with their teeth, and they believed the cartridges were greased with cow and pig fat, and consuming that was offensive to both Hindu and Muslim soldiers. And I'm sure you probably had that as part of your syllabus as well, because it was such a big event for Hindus and Muslims alike, and it's what united us in our fight against the British.
Yeah, that's one of my strongest memories from Path Studies classes too. But also it's because it was in the initial chapters and my concepts got pretty weak as we moved forward.
Yeah, it gets harder as you move on with the syllabus. You don't remember the stuff towards the end. I'm sure I don't too, but I do still think I was a pretty good history student though, because I remember the order of the Mughal emperors in the entire Mughal dynasty in order, because we had a
Humble brag.
it is a humble brag, but it's only because we had this super funny mnemonic to remember it by. But I do know that they're trying to cut Mughal history out of the Indian syllabus now, or they've already probably cut it out.
We are being told that there will be specific changes to standard 12th history textbook, where the chapters that pertain to the Mughal Empire are likely to be eliminated in the NCERT textbooks.
That's really interesting because having studied from the O-level system, which is a British system, we mostly just studied about the Mughal Empire at its decline and when the British East India Company entered India. I've heard Pakistan's local boards do go deeper and like some of them tend to glorify the Mughals, but I'm not surprised that the British system doesn't care too much about whatever happened before they came along.
Makes sense, but that's very interesting because I thought that since, Mughals were Muslims and yours is an Islamic country, very naively, I thought you would study in more depth in Pakistan. But I guess it makes sense because most of the noticeable remnants of the Mughal Empire, like the Taj Mahal, Qutub Minar, and all the great works of architecture are all in India.
Wait, okay, but I have to know this. What was the mnemonic?
Yeah, so the mnemonic in Bengali sounds like Babar holo abar jor sharlo oshode, which in English means my dad caught a fever again and he got better after taking some medicine.
That is really funny. The mnemonic I really remember memorizing was for metals in the periodic table.
Oh, actually, that's quite funny to me because your major in college was as far removed from chemistry as it could be. But that makes me curious, were STEM subjects and professions pushed onto you guys in Pakistan?
Not in my experience, and I do think we're getting better. Our generation definitely has the luxury to explore much more than STEM subjects, but like our parents' generation, I feel didn't have that luxury. I remember when I was still deciding what I would major in, I had a conversation with one of my parents' friends, and she asked me, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I know what I don't want to do. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be an engineer, and I don't want to go into business." And then she said, verbatim, "To bacha kya?" Then what is left?
Oh, so pretty much like in Three Idiots.
लड़का हुआ तो इंजीनियर, लड़की हुई तो डॉक्टर.
Is the stereotype true in India too, though?
Think so. I don't think I can speak for all of India, but if you grew up in a lower or upper middle class family, this narrative was definitely pushed onto you. You were looked down upon if you studied the humanities subjects instead of STEM. And God forbid you were a guy, like a dude who wants to study English or history, you were considered absolutely worthless. Like STEM was the holy grail of all subjects.
Man, like the whole insensitive Chatur monologue aside, Three Idiots had some really powerful stuff, like Farhan's character and showing how his face lit up when he got a chance to do wildlife photography versus engineering, which he was pushed to do, really showed the impact of how much it means to be able to do what you really want to do. And then that film also really showed you the toll it takes on you when you don't get to do what you want to do.
Yeah, it kind of sucks, because for the parents, they're just trying to ensure their kids' survival in the real world. And they think that unless you have a STEM degree, you won't be able to earn enough, pay your bills, or have a family because you won't be able to afford it. Essentially, you cannot survive in this world.
राजू बहुत सिंपल सी बात कहता है, जो काम में मजा है उसे अपना प्रोफेशन बनाओ, फिर काम काम नहीं खेल लगेगा।
अरे कमाओगे कितना उस जंगल में?
And look, there is a risk to a career in the arts. So you feel like you need to do STEM or a more traditional career path to survive. And I was reading this tweet by someone at the Cool Issue on Twitter. And they said rich kids being able to do art for a living may be a reflection of their privilege. But it seems to me like a reflection of the fact that a human that doesn't have to worry about money will often choose art. Everyone is an artist until rent is due.
That's actually really profound. And, that makes me think that to an extent, I understand where our parents' generation is coming from. Most of them grew up from from poverty to having a middle class standing. They grew up in poverty because their parents, so basically our grandparents' generation, grew up during a very tumultuous time when our countries were very newly independent and we were still healing from the scars of partition and coming out of colonial rule. So our parents had a difficult upbringing and the survival mentality was ingrained in them.
And it's not just survival, right? It gets into survival of the fittest. I definitely feel that it's getting much better now. And I was personally lucky to not have like a lot of competition in school, and the people I competed with were some of my closest friends. But like schooling at home and maybe in other places too has so much unhealthy competition.
Yeah, bro, like literally Student of the Year's climax scene was Varun Dhawan and Siddharth Malhotra competing to win the race and who wins the triathlon contest.
Right, like even though it's not that glamorous, any competition we have in school, but I can't believe I'm saying this. I think Student of the Year does get it right. Competitions get pretty intense. Did you have any specific competition in school that got like really, really intense?
To be honest, when you say competition, the one thing I can really think about is that moms were really competitive with one another. So we had, like, I remember having moms would come up to my mom to ask what my final percentage was, like what my annual percentage was. And they'd gossip about which kid got how much marks on what test. And even now, moms are still very competitive with each other about like what their kids are doing. And they gossip about their kids as friends and evaluate their academic performance.
Oh my God. Yeah, I definitely had the privilege of being the achhi bachchi or the good girl with good grades. So I definitely saw like my teachers or my peers' parents comparing me to other kids. And if you were among the good kids, the achhe bachche, there was so much more that you could get away with, like late assignments, or you'd often be the person that when anyone wants to get a test delayed, like I'd often be like sent to convince the teacher to get the test delayed.
I mean, that makes sense. But remember, you also told me your school had like 200 kids per class. Our school was much bigger. We had like 1,000 kids. So even in the good kid group, there was like an elite kid group. So for example, like this one time, this esteemed speaker came to our school and they couldn't just say, oh, the top 10% of people can go, because that would literally mean like 100 kids. So then they had to select like the top, like, I don't know, 20 kids who could go. And this happened when a really famous journalist, a sports journalist called Boria Mazumdar, came to our school.
Oh, I'm trying to think who some of our like biggest speakers were. We did get Junaid Jamshed once.
Who's that? Who's Junaid Jamshed?
He's a famous late Pakistani singer. He had left music, but he sang the iconic Dil Dil Pakistan. And that is like the national song we sing every Independence Day.
Oh, so did you get to see him?
Kind of. I saw him from far away because he came for our sports day, and I was in the non-winners enclosure.
Wait, what? The non-winners enclosure. Okay.
That is literally what it was called. It was funny because from second grade, our teacher started telling us winning and losing is nothing. Participation is the main thing. And I'm like, hum dil jalo ko dilasa dene ka acha tarika hai, as poor souls who are like sitting in the non-winners enclosure.
Yeah, we had a lot of competition during sports days as well. So we even had like a non-winners race at the end. So people who didn't win anything got to do a race at the end. But literally, dude, our sports days were like Harry Potter level. We had houses and we tallied scores at the end of each event, like at the end of the relay race, the shot put, and the long jump. And we always wanted our house to win.
Oh, same. And we had like full trash talking about the other houses too, right? Like our house was called Iqbal, and the biggest diss we got was Ekbal, meaning one head. and when whoever would win, they'd play stand up for the champions. It was so cinematic. You felt that the stakes were so high, full Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar style.
That is true, but I do feel that sports days were such a fun time too. Like I used to bunk classes all the time to do sports days at work and I'd not study. And also at the end of the sports day, I remember that there was just such collective tiredness in all of us. Like we'd be so exhausted after a full day. And we'd get like food from school that was like really tasty.
Dude, we didn't get food on sports days, but we had killer balu shahi on Independence Day celebrations. Like we went back often as alumni to meet our friends and teachers on Independence Day celebrations. That was the main reason I went. But like the second most important reason was the balu shahi.
I'm assuming that's a food. You
Yeah,
guys
it's a mithai.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we also had like a school canteen which had certain specialities people went crazy over, like the chow mein, and then we also had a Chinese samosa people loved.
We had this amazing 10 rupees ka aloo ka samosa, but due to inflation, it went from 10 to 15 rupees, but it was still really great.
Dude, same. We also had the Chinese samosa was 10 rupees, but then due to inflation, it went up to 14 rupees. I think that explains the Indian rupee and Pakistani rupee difference. You know? But yeah, we also bunked a lot of classes during school fests. Okay, but like if you had to mention like one favorite memory from school, what would that be?
Okay, this is kind of sentimental, but a lot of people had moved school for their A levels, which is their final last 2 years of high school. So in like our last year together before our A levels, towards the end, my friend created these little autograph books, and we spent like an hour just passing them around class. Everyone wrote notes and everyone's autograph books about their favorite memories of each other. And it was one of the first times reality really hit me that these people I've been with for over a decade, I won't see them every other day. It was also really the first time I understood, you know, that line from Twitches, which is love is infinite. I just felt so much love for these people and they felt like family. And I still have that booklet.
That's a very sweet emotion. That's very
What's one of your favorite memories?
Okay, I have a couple, but I guess I'll name the top one. So basically, if you're a kid in India who's pursuing science in 11th and 12th grade, it's pretty traumatic for you, okay? I can speak this for all of India. Anyway, but the only reason I survived those 2 years was because I had amazing classmates and we were all so naughty. I had a lot of fun in school. So I remember one time in grade 11, we got so exasperated with like our classes. We all decided we'd mass bunk so nobody would show up to school the next day. And we were a class of 40 students. And guess what? 39 people didn't show up and one kid showed up to school the next day. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh. In that situation, I was that one kid who would show up. I was one of two kids who stayed when we had a very similar situation.
Yeah, I don't doubt that for 1 second, but we could probably go on and on and on about our favorite memories from school, but that's for another episode. Like literally, we'll do another episode on this.
But before we close off, like we mentioned in the last episode, we wanted to bring attention to a cause close to our hearts. The death toll in Gaza is continuing to rise, and all of Gaza's schools have been shut down.
Please consider donating to UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East. The link is in our description. Among other things, UNRWA provides educational support to Palestinian refugees.
When we recorded this episode a while ago, we also recorded this song that speaks to the wonder and creativity when education is done right. So let's do what we can to make sure that all children in Palestine and all over the world get to experience this.
देखो देखो क्या वो पेड़ है चांद